فاصبر صبرا جميلا.
There's something very interesting that Imam Al-Qayyim says. He talks about the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَنْ يَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ لِلْكَافِرِينَ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ سَبِيلًا. And Allah will never give power for the disbelievers over the believers. He says there are people who question this. They say, but we have believers and they have been subjugated by disbelievers. So how come? But Allah is making a very emphatic statement. وَلَنْ يَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ لِلْكَافِرِينَ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ سَبِيلًا. And Allah will never give power to the disbelievers over the believers. How come? He says some people have this. They can't solve this issue, this seeming discrepancy. For them it seems to be contradictory. But he says we have to see this, or we have to read this verse properly with balance. That this depends on the level of Iman. When a person reaches the highest level of Iman, this verse applies to them fully. So how this verse applies to you is proportionate to the level of your Iman. You have little Iman, a low level of Iman, that means Allah will protect you from the people of disbelief in proportion to the level of your Iman. The higher you grow in Iman, the more Allah will protect you from the disbelievers. Until you reach the highest levels of Iman, you get to a point where the disbelievers will have no power over you, no might over you. That's how he says. As he says, you can read all of Islamic history and you can see the only time the believers are subjugated or taken over by the disbelievers, you will find when they have committed great acts of disobedience towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is how we should, and this is why sometimes, by the way, this is a very important issue. Sometimes we take one statement from the Quran, we take it out of context, and we have very simplistic understanding of it, and we want it to apply. Like someone says, and I receive this question very often. Someone says, Allah says, وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمُ ادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. And your Lord says, call on me and I will answer your call. So he says, I've been calling upon Allah, but so many things are not being answered. He said, but Allah is making clear statement, call upon me and I will answer you. The usual answer is, you need to see this in context. Allah is saying, when you call upon Allah, Allah will answer you when everything else is also in place. There's a bigger context, you have to see it. When your food and your provision is halal, it's not haram. When your record with Allah is clear as well. When your record with Allah is clear. Because you could ask for something and Allah doesn't give it to you because you have committed a sin. That's possible. There's something else in context that you have to see. But these are not mentioned in this context, but the wider context is there. So you have to see everything within that context that you have to automatically consider. You might ask for something, but there is a bad consequence in that thing for you. So Allah is not going to respond. Allah is not going to give you what you're asking for. As simple as that. Why? Because it's not good for you. That's another part of the context that you have to see. That's a dangerous approach to have a very simplistic understanding to these, I would say, open or broad statements in the Quran or the Sunnah. We have to be careful. And there is a famous story from Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, that the people of Kufa, they asked him, they said, you know, we call upon Allah but He doesn't respond, but Allah promised response. Ali ibn Abi Talib mentioned 10 reasons for them. He said, because your money is not halal. There's haram in your money. Allah doesn't respond to that. Because you guys have sinned, Allah does not respond to, or Allah could hold back some of His responses because of the sins. You have not put your trust in Allah when you made dua. So that's not proper dua, and that's why you're not getting this, and so on and so forth. So we have to keep in mind that things always have a context. Sometimes we're very simplistic in our approach, and we say, oh, Allah makes this statement, I made dua, my dua is not answered, this statement is not true. That's a very simplistic approach. Very simplistic approach.